Hello everybody and welcome to week 4 of the NFL. My name is Sir Grogshire, otherwise known as Kyle Grogan. It is now 6:52 in the morning of Thursday night football, and I am actually kind of awake right now. So let's go ahead and do the picks, because I got some late picks from this week, and I'm probably going to be a little more unfiltered than normal because of how early it is. So this is going to be a fun time. Let's go ahead and get into our Thursday night football game. Starting off this week with a really good matchup on Thursday night between the Eagles and Green Bay. The Eagles, honestly, are 2 drop passes away from being 3-0 themselves. So the Eagles have been playing really well. It's just they haven't been able to finish a game. Where Green Bay has been able to finish every game that they've been able to play. But it wasn't because of their offense, it's because of their defense. The defense has been doing very well, and their offense has done alright. But Aaron Rodgers has definitely not looked like the Hall of Fame caliber quarterback that is Aaron Rodgers. Whereas Carson Wentz has looked very good, and now he's getting Alshon Jeffrey back from injury. Things should get a little bit better. He's still without Deshaun Jackson, so that's going to be a bigger question mark. But they were able to do it last year with just Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar. So it should be a pretty good matchup. For us, 3 of us are going with the Eagles. The rest are going with the Packers. It's me, Pulisic, and Miles going with the Eagles. And the Eagles have a very good shot. I would expect this one to be a fairly high-scoring game. Or it could be the opposite, where this is like a 10-6 difference. Moving on to our 1 o'clock games, we have the Titans, who played very much like doo-doo last week against the Jags, versus the Falcons, who lost in a very narrow window to the Colts, who are playing a lot better than a lot of people anticipated. I'm the only one who went with the Colts versus the Falcons last week, so props to me. And the Falcons have actually been playing pretty well. It's nothing against them, it's just they've been playing well, just like the Eagles have. They just can't finish the job. They were also down by quite a bit going into the fourth quarter of that game, and they wound up getting it back to 24 points. Still couldn't win though. Whereas the Titans put up a measly 1 touchdown, Derrick Henry was not a factor, and, well, they made the defense of the Jags look way better than they have in the first 2 weeks. And it's because of Marcus Mariota and the offensive line. Marcus Mariota really was not a factor in that game as well. He could barely throw the ball. I understand the conditions for the weather were not very suitable, but this needs to start becoming a thing where all practice fields have a rain machine so that everyone can learn how to play in the fucking rain. Plain and simple. All of us are going with the Falcons in this game because the Titans did not show enough to play in this type of game. Simple as that. Going to our next game, we have the Redskins in New York to face the Giants. And this should be a very interesting game because now Daniel Jones has gotten his first official start last week and barely squeaked out a win by the skin of the goalpost. Whereas the Bucs kicker could not kick for shit last week. And, of course, Bruce Arians was like, our kicker is better at kicking at a distance. And they took a delay of game penalty just to have him kick further, and he didn't make it. I think you need to get a new kicker there, Arians. But going to the other team, you are facing a Case Keenum-led Redskins who did alright. They've been doing alright, but they're still 0-3. And Daniel Jones was able to get them their first win. So it's one of those games that could come down to the wire, just like the Bucs and the Giants. But all of us, except for Chris, are going with the Giants because we think Daniel Jones has a little bit better of a chance to win a game than Eli Manning does right now. Whereas I think the Redskins just need to kind of turn it over to Dwayne Haskins by now, because obviously Case Keenum is not quite the answer to their questions. So I'd expect this one to be fairly high scoring, especially without Saquon Barkley. It's going to be a very passer aggressive game, and you can take that as a punt as you will, but I don't plan on it. Once again, do I actually have to comment on this game? It's the Chargers versus the Dolphins, and the Dolphins have already basically figured out they're going to tank for the season, although Josh Rosen must not have gotten the idea, considering he put up 10 points, and the Dolphins weren't supposed to put up 10 points against the Cowboys. Going along with that, Chargers are finally getting back Melvin Gordon, and I don't know how much of a factor he'll be in this game, if any at all, because I'm sure there's going to be a punishment from his coach on his playing time, especially with Austin Eckler doing pretty well. Otherwise, I expect Phillip Rivers to play fine, and I don't expect Miami to be any type of threat to the Chargers. But if you go back to the 1-15 season of the Browns, the Chargers were the ones that lost to the Browns. So is this another situation like that? Or are we going to see the Chargers just absolutely decimate the Dolphins? I don't see a reason to talk anymore about this game. Everyone's going with the Chargers until the Dolphins prove otherwise. Sorry. Our fourth 1 o'clock game has the Raiders going up against the Indianapolis Colts. And just like every other week that I've talked about a Raiders game, I'm going to talk about one person and one person alone, and that's Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has to impact this game. No questions asked, nothing more about it, because it is Josh Jacobs versus Marlon Mack. T.Y. Hilton is pretty sure he's not going to play in this game, so he shouldn't be a factor, which means all the other Colts receivers need to step up. Jacoby Brissett has played phenomenally in every game that he started, which has been every game this year, in place of Andrew Luck, who decided to retire, and there's pretty much it. Derek Carr is going to be as accurate as ever, I guarantee it. The Colts defense has to step up to counter that, and nothing else needs to be said. The Raiders defense is meh. Apparently Vontaze Burfict punched somebody intentionally, but I'm tired of everybody talking about that, because Vontaze Burfict is just playing the game like it used to be played. Yeah, you're supposed to adapt to times, but who the hell gives a shit? Let the dude play hard. Goddamn. We've got the Colts winning. No one took the Raiders. No point. Going into what should be our first really good game of the afternoon, it's the Panthers versus the Texans, and what should be a quarterback showdown. You have Kyle Allen on one side, who is already playing way better than Cam Newton, and you got Deshaun Watson on the other side. Both quarterbacks can move very well on their feet, and then you add in the other big factor, which is Christian McCaffrey and DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, at least for my fantasy aspect, has not really shown why I drafted him first. That's my fault. But, keep going on to that, Christian McCaffrey has shown every fantasy owner why he is the best person on the Panthers. Now, along with Christian McCaffrey, Greg Olsen has decided to show up, which is great. And every other Panther receiver has shown that they have needed to step up as well. The line on this game is Harden is the only one going with the Panthers, and everyone else is going with the Texans, just because of the assured points that you're going to get with the Texans. You know DeAndre Hopkins is going to ball, and that's pretty much it. That's all you need to know. Now, fuck off. Now to the game where it's a game against technically two undefeated teams. The Lions are 2-0-1. That apparently means they're undefeated, even though they've tied. That's a really stupid-ass rule. But the Chiefs are actually 3-0. They are actually undefeated, and that's because Patrick Mahomes is a goddamn wizard. Until the Chiefs actually show that they have a weakness, which their defense is pretty much their weakness, but it doesn't matter when Patrick Mahomes can throw for 200 plus yards and still come out with a victory. because he still doesn't have Tyreek Hill, but yet everyone else has been doing well, including Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, and their running backs. So I can't really complain about the Chiefs at all. Whereas the Lions are still probably the biggest wild card in any football game of this entire year and last year and the year before. Every year that I've been a football fan, they've been a wild card because you don't know if they're going to do well or if they're not going to do well. So it's so weird if I have to pick the Lions, but we don't have to because everybody went with the Chiefs. The Chiefs are just way too good. I don't expect the Chiefs to go 3-1 in this matchup. So, sorry Lions. Better luck next year. We now have our first of two AFC North rivalries going on this week. You have the 1-2 overrated Browns versus the 2-1 probably underrated Ravens. There's really not much to talk about in this game other than the Browns still look overrated. Their defense played pretty well, but their offense is a mess. Baker Mayfield seems to have no pocket awareness. He doesn't seem to be looking down the field, and that's pretty much it, where Lamar Jackson and the Ravens actually gave up quite a fight to the Chiefs. And once again, it just came down to who scored the most. Defenses really weren't part of the issue last week. It was just offense after offense after offense, which is fine. It makes for an exciting game. But this one, I don't expect it to be that close. The Ravens are churning on all cylinders, whereas the Browns are still figuring out what the hell to do in the Freddie Kitchens era. And honestly, with everything going on, I would almost assume that Freddie Kitchens will not be the coach next year. And that's based off of the Hugh Jackson law. But whatever. I guess he did go 3 seasons, 2.5 if you want to be technical. But he's really not the answer that the Browns are looking for. Good luck next year, Browns. You're going to need it. For our final 1 o'clock game, this should be the best game of the 1 o'clock period. It is the Patriots versus the Bills. The Patriots are coming off of another easy win, while the Bills are coming off of a more aggressive win versus the Bengals. And as much as there were a couple calls that I don't quite agree with in that game, the Bills wound up being able to drive in the fourth quarter to win the game and come up with a very clutch interception. And that's all she wrote. But the Bills are playing at home. I expect this to be a very close game. And this is probably the Patriots' first real test of the season. And I don't expect them to win. I really don't. I think the Patriots have been on cruise control at least through the first 3 games. And with the Bills being 3-0, to keep pace in the division, they have to win this game. This is a must-win for Buffalo if they're going to try to overthrow the Patriots this season. The line on this game is only 3 people are going with the Patriots. It's Tolles, Pulisic, and Duckworth. They're the only ones going with the Patriots, and normally they'd be the favorites to win because I guarantee you every other analyst is sucking on the Patriots D right now. And that's funny because the Patriots don't have a D fence. Thank you. I'll be here all week. Go Bills. Going on to our 4:05 games, we have the Bucks versus the Rams. And I'll get to the Bucks here in a sec, but let me talk about the Rams. The Rams have a good offensive line. That's without a doubt. The Rams have a good defensive line. That is without a doubt. The Rams defense is probably better than average. That's fine to say. Why is it that their running game and their QB are not up to par? Jared Goff has not looked that great. At least last week he didn't. Todd Gurley has barely been used. And it's kind of starting to piss me off because you got one of the league's best runners in Todd Gurley and you're barely using him. Why? Sean McVay, I know you're supposed to be a football genius, but still, you need to use Todd Gurley. And it's not just because he's in my fantasy lineup. On the Bucs side of the ball, Jameis Winston looked good for one reason and one reason alone. The underutilized Mike Evans. If you underutilize the man, of course he's going to be fucking open with 50 seconds to go. And then you spike the ball. And then you get a delay of game penalty, and then you leave it to your kicker when you have time to throw the ball, and you fucking miss. The Bucs should have beaten the Giants last week. It's plain fact is that. But when you have a kicker whose last name is Gay, you're going to get results like that. Sorry, I had to do that one. But all of us are going with the Rams because I expect the kicker to miss at least 2 field goals in this game. I expect nothing less. Go Rams. Our second 405 game is a game that should be a must-win for one team and a easy win for the other team. It's the Seahawks versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals need to win this game to prove that Kyler Murray is what he's supposed to be, or that Cliff Kingsbury is the coach of the future for the Cardinals, and so that Larry Fitzgerald stays on the team to be 350 years old and keep playing. Whereas the Seahawks, this should be an easy win for them because their defense is pretty sound. Their offense gets points. Nothing about it. Tyler Lockett's going to probably be the biggest impact player in this game. Russell Wilson is going to be Russell Wilson. And then the running game. The running game's good for the Seahawks. But that's it. They just need to work on the team. As long as they play as a team, they'll be fine. As far as the Cardinals, they have to win this game. They're 0-2-1. They're down in the division. And if they don't win something soon, they're going to be left in the dust for the rest of the division to keep moving while they get another top 5 pick. Simple as that. The line on this game is all of us are going with the Seahawks for pretty easy reasons. So, sorry Cardinals. Once again, better luck next year. Let's now go to the NFC North for a rivalry game here at 425. We have the Vikings versus the Bears. And the Bears have been a little bit of a wild card themselves, whereas Mitch Trubisky has week 1 Mitch Trubisky, and he has week 3 Mitch Trubisky. Which one will we get? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. While we go on to the Vikings, and you have Kirk Cousins, who played very well last week. You have Dalvin Cook, who did Dalvin Cook things. As long as he doesn't get injured, he'll be fine. And then you had Adam Thielen pop off. Stephon Diggs can do things. The Vikings team is good. Their defense is good. The Bears defense is good. The Bears offense is questionable. But we'll see more about that probably in this game. This will be a defining game for the Bears. Because if they don't win this, they're going to once again fall behind in the standings because of the fact that they're so random on when they want to be good and when they don't want to be good. I trust Matt Nagy. He is a fine coach. And I trust Mike Zimmer because he was a Bengals coach and he's very good at what he does. The line on this game for us is 2 people are going with the Bears. It's Harden and Pulisic. Other than that, we're going with the Vikings. And it's because I think the Vikings are a more complete team other than Kirk Cousins. He's kind of a question mark. But as long as he plays like he did last week, the Vikings will be fine. That's it. Our final 425 game, we have the porn star Jags and the washed up veteran Broncos. The Broncos have honestly looked alright. They haven't looked great because one thing, when you have Bradley Chubb and you have Von Miller and your team has yet to get a turnover on defense, that's an issue. But then you have the Jags, who, if I'm correct, had 9 sacks last week, 8 sacks last week against the Titans, and Gardner Minshew looked phenomenal. I didn't expect him to do that well, which is why I went with the Titans, because they were supposed to be the more trustworthy team. But with the Jags kind of coming out of nowhere, and I understand that was at home, it was raining, but if one team puts up that amount of points when the other team can only put up 1 touchdown, obviously one team was prepared, one team wasn't. But also, one team plays in Florida. That in itself is a thing right there. The Broncos, on the other hand, they technically have the advantage because they're in Mile High Stadium, and it's always hard to play in Mile High Stadium due to breathing issues. But the line for us is 3 people are going with the Broncos to get their first win. Smith, Miles, and Duckworth. They're going with the Broncos, and it's probably because of that home field advantage, but I think the Jags will be prepared and they'll be fine. This is what you call a primetime game. You have the 3-0 Cowboys versus the 2-1 Saints. The Saints coming off of a fantastic showing in week 3, and they looked so good. Teddy Bridgewater did Teddy Bridgewater things that he looked like he was back in the Vikings. And Alvin Kamara looked fantastic again. The Saints defense looked phenomenal. And then you have the Cowboys, who have had probably one of the easiest starting schedules in the world other than the Patriots. This is going to be a lot closer than Cowboys fans are going to want to admit, because all they're thinking about is, we damn boys, we Super Bowl team. And yet they've had one of the easiest schedules to start off in a while. The Bengals technically have the easiest schedule, quote unquote, but when you look at some of the starting schedules that are across the board, it's not too easy. The Cowboys have faced a team which I believe the total of the 3 records of the teams they faced are 1-8. So they have something to kind of prove in this game, that it's not just, oh, we played easy teams. This is a test for the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense is sound. Dak Prescott has looked good. Ezekiel Elliott is finally starting to take his form from last year. But you have Ezekiel Elliott versus Alvin Kamara. And in that matchup, I will 100% take Alvin Kamara, because Alvin Kamara does not have the personality of a dried up whale. And the line on this game is actually most people are going with the Cowboys. Only 3 of us are going with the Saints, including me, Tolls, and Brock. Once again, this is a proving ground for the Cowboys. We need to see you win, boys. Our final matchup of the week is probably the matchup that is going to be the best primetime game that you can get. I know the records don't look pretty, but the rivalry is so much better than the game. And it's the 0-3 Bengals versus the 0-3 Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you would have told any NFL or ESPN announcer that really likes to gargle on the Steelers, they would have never told you that the Steelers would have started off 0-3. But they would have also told you that Ben Roethlisberger was going to be completely healthy for the entire season. But when a player like that goes down, it really changes the dimension of the team. And as much as I really don't like Ben Roethlisberger, he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. And there's nothing that I can say that will overcome that. But when somebody like that goes down, it changes the whole complexion. Mason Rudolph did a pretty good job. But there's one stat that says that the Steelers should have had 1 win, and it should have been last week. And that's 5 turnovers. Your defense caused 5 turnovers, which, granted, most of them were due to mistakes of the 49ers. But you got the ball 5 times from offensive errors of the 49ers, and you still lost. Your defense did all the work, and you lost. Whereas the Bengals, on the other hand, they were absent from the game for 2.5 quarters. And what I mean by that is they didn't score, they had no offense, but their defense looked good. The defense actually looked pretty good for the Bengals, holding Buffalo to 1 touchdown in that entire frame. I know it was 14 points, but they only had 1 touchdown. Going along with that is the Bengals defense on the road has been really good. They faced Seattle and they faced Buffalo. Both teams have a combined for 5-1. The teams that Cincinnati has played has a combined 8-1 record, which it's pretty close for the Steelers because they played Seattle right after the Bengals played Seattle, and then they played the 49ers right after the Bengals played 49ers. So it's still a very close range of records for the Bengals and Pittsburgh to have started playing with. But I still would not have pictured Pittsburgh as an 0-3 team. Most of us, actually, the line on this game is right down the middle. So me, Smith, Harden and Pulisic, we're going with the Bengals. My boys, right there. And then Tolles, Brock, Miles, and Duckworth are going with the Steelers. This is going to be a very defensive-heavy game, and I would not be surprised if this is the lowest-scoring game of the week. It's going to be a very exciting defensive stand. But the one thing to remember is Andy Dalton is still number 2 in quarterback passing yards. And the Pittsburgh defense has given up, I believe, the second most passing yards to quarterbacks and the highest QB rating for any team. So this is going to be Andy Dalton's proving ground, along with the Bengals defense needs to step up for this game. That's my thoughts on this. But, of course, this was going to be the longest audio because it's my team and it's my rivalry. So, what are you going to do about it? Here are the current standings of our picks, and I did wind up looking up how we face off. I couldn't find the NFL analysts, but I found a website that keeps track of ESPN, Fox Sports, Yahoo Sports, CBS, and right now most of us are actually in the top 10 of all of those analysts, and if we can get more attention, then that shows them that we're better than them. Along with that, I hope you guys like the new logos. Decided to play a little bit more on Photoshop just to see what would look good and what wouldn't. I think they turned out quite well. Let me know what you think in the comments below on how they turned out. And I know this is a much longer video than you may have anticipated, but what I'm finding out is the more weeks that we go through, there's more to talk about, especially once it comes down to injuries and records and standout players and stuff like that. So I'm sorry for this one being a bit too long if you think of it that way, but also I'm hopefully staying under 30 minutes along with this outro, and I'm hoping to see you guys next week for another video. And I would say the regular schedule for these are going to be either Wednesday nights or Thursday mornings, so keep an eye out for those, and I will see you next week for another full week of football. Have a good day. It is now almost 8 o'clock in the morning. I want to go back to sleep. Bye-bye.